So hey guys, this is Mayank, founder of SwiftAndTime.com, and I welcome you to the 16th episode of the Mayank Show. And today we are going to talk to Danijela Vrzan. She is a special guest to us. Why I'm saying that? Because she has an interesting story to tell. She was a civil engineer before. She transformed her career into iOS development, and in all this, her husband was the motivating factor because he kind of told her that why don't you try coding when she was doing the civil engineering stuff, and she wanted to get into some other things as well, and that was a turning point for her. She is today an iOS engineer, and not just that, she is also a technical content writer as well. I provide all the links of her work in the description down below. You can check that out, and I'll also provide her Twitter, so you can follow her over there. She's quite active on Twitter. And if you have any queries, if you want to get into iOS development, if you want to prepare for iOS interviews, how to get into the career of iOS, then you can definitely DM her, or maybe just write a tweet and tagging her in that. So today in this episode, we talk about a lot of things: iOS, her journey, WWDC experience that she had this time. She was in Cupertino this year. She met a lot of people out there from the iOS community, and we discussed a lot of things about that as well. So guys, without any further ado, let's play the intro and jump into the video. Welcome to the Mayank Show, Danijela. Thank you for taking out time, first of all. I believe that a lot of people know about you already through Twitter, I believe, and through your blogs, which you have been publishing. But still, I would ask you, would you like to give your introduction to my audience?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me. So my name is Danijela Vrzan. I'm a Croatian currently living in Toronto, Canada. So I work as an iOS developer currently, but before I became an iOS developer, I was a civil engineer for 2 years back in Croatia. And so I didn't really like that career path I chose. After working 2 years, my husband, who worked in IT, told me, why don't you try programming? It's a creative field. You might like it. You've never tried it. And I never really, heard about programming. I just wasn't within that type of circle of people who knew about it. And then I didn't have it in school, even in my civil engineering university. And so I sat down one day, found a course on Coursera from Duke University about building websites. I built my first website in HTML and CSS, and just loved it. Even though HTML and CSS is not really programming, but still, it's a good introduction. And a lot of people actually started with it. Yeah. And then I decided to go back to university and got my computer science degree in Croatia. After that, I moved to Canada, got a chance to participate in the iOS bootcamp that Reventley had in 2020. And then after that, I got my first job, started writing articles for Reventley, and everything kind of just coming in. Started speaking at my first conference. Now I'm going to speak my fourth conference. Started my personal blog, and I'm just here sharing my knowledge and enjoying what I do.
Okay, that's awesome. I think I have a lot of things to ask you since you have told me about a lot of things. But let's start with step by step. So I would first like to ask you, how was it for you when you entered into the space of programming? And you also mentioned that in Croatia, like maybe IT engineering field is not that big, right? So is that the environment, or then what is big, like in terms of engineering or any other profession? What is considered to be first or second choice of anyone who is into college in Croatia?
That's a very good question. I think, and there are a lot of engineering schools out there, civil engineering, architecture. IT schools are pretty big, especially these days. And now I think a lot of schools have introductions to programming, so people can decide to go into programming much earlier. When I used to go to school, that wasn't the case, unfortunately. So a lot of people hear about programming and maybe decide to go into programming much sooner. But besides engineering, people go to psychology, just human sciences.
Okay.
Too.
All right. So that's their first career choice, right?
Yeah,
Which
my
time, I would say, not first.
when I was deciding to, at the age of, I don't know, I actually, when I was, I think I was 14 or something, I had to decide which high school to go to.
Okay.
In Croatia, most popular high schools are called gymnasiums. So it's a 4 year of learning pretty much everything. You learn like Latin, Greek,
Wow.
psychology. You learn everything. And so
Except for
yeah, and so I didn't go there because it required a lot of reading books and like just sitting down learning. At that point of time, I wasn't much of a person who just I needed to do like something practical, and so I decided like, okay, well, what is there to do? So I decided to actually take civil engineering in my high school. So
okay.
it's called a civil technician.
Okay.
So you learn basics of civil engineering. And I went to do that because I loved to draw. And so
I see.
we draw a lot in civil engineering, but there's also a lot of math, a lot of physics. And so
Right.
I went to high school for civil engineering. And then after high school, just a logical, it was very logical for me to go to civil engineer. So I did 7 years of schooling for a civil engineer.
Wow. Then how come this transition? Because, like, I know, okay, you just said that you were interested into drawing, and I believe even that is common with iOS development. We focus a lot on designs, right? So we have to get into those things. This is a common ground. But how come that switch happened? Because this is quite contrary, right? Like civil engineering versus IT.
Yeah,
That's
it's
that's
very very different. There's nothing like
they're
similar to, to those two careers.
because one
Yeah,
word is completely like offline and the other word is completely digital, right?
yeah. I mean, as a civil engineer, I worked on the field pretty much, like going outside. You rarely sit at a computer. It's
Right.
definitely a different career. I don't know. I just liked it. I was lucky that my husband supported me because I was in the bringing in money
Okay.
while I was studying. So I was lucky that he was there, like to support me, and he was actually pretty happy that I decided to start to get into programming because, like, okay, wow, so now I have somebody to talk to about programming and about IT. He was like so excited for me too. So that was very nice.
Wow. It has a lot of advantages, like personally as well. So that's amazing. Uh,
Yeah.
so, so you started off with the web development first, as you said. Uh, so, how did you went into iOS development? Because you started with web, and you said that when you went to Canada, then you had this boot camp, which you joined. So, were you exploring the tech at that point of time, and you were just making yourself free in terms of let's
Yeah.
explore first and then decide.
Yeah, so during my university, I learned we had a lot of C++, a
Okay.
little bit of Python, some PHP, so a lot of different languages and different technologies. We didn't really have anything mobile related during my bachelor degree, and so I started learning a little bit of C sharp on my own. Got
See.
had first C sharp book and just tried to. I think the first chapter is making a very simple game in there. So I tried that, but it didn't really stick with me. I don't know. I just didn't like it. Didn't like C sharp, C++. So I just couldn't get myself, to sit
C++
down and do some
syntax is
development.
quite scary to me. Like, sorry to interrupt you in between, but I have also like learned C++ before, and the like syntax in C++ is quite weird. I would say like C out, C in. Like I know like these are the
Yeah.
basics, but still, they doesn't really make that much sense if you compare it with Swift, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a different syntax and different language.
But yeah, I can not deny the power of C++. Obviously, we all know
And
that.
pointers.
Pointers, a different concept in itself. But yeah, please.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't really like it. Web development, it was okay, but I I wanted to try something else. And at my second year of university, I got my first MacBook and my first iPhone. I was using Android before, and at that point of time, I was like, okay, wait, I can try to make mobile apps, That was like kind of just a thought in my mind, and so I just downloaded Xcode and I made my first app. It was very, very simple app, just a quote app
What was the
with a
first step?
pattern that was my first app, yeah, that I
So what
just
was it
developed
like?
on my own.
What was that
It,
app all about?
yeah, it had I created a set of images that had a background and a quote by a person. And
Okay.
so I just put that quote at the full screen with a button at the bottom. And when you press the button, it would just randomly change a different quote.
Okay. All right. All
Yeah,
right.
and then, I downloaded that app on my phone and I was like playing with it and I felt so cool. I was showing everybody, look what I made. And so that's when, okay, wow, this is like so fun. I want to do iOS development. And so that's
Okay.
how I just started iOS development. I did my
That-
bachelor's thesis. It was a it was a Twitter sentiment analyzer app. So I was doing a little bit of machine learning
Okay.
there, and so I did that as part of my bachelor's degree. And after graduating, I just sat down and started learning Swift and iOS development pretty much on my own.
Awesome. So you learn iOS pretty much on your own then, because this is something which people stuck with. Like when they start off learning iOS development, the very first question that they have is from where should we learn and how should we go about it? What topics should we consider? Because somebody when enters into the space of iOS development, like mostly, the people look out for a job right after that, right? And that's the main intention behind learning also many times. So what is the roadmap basically according to you to get into the field of iOS development?
I mean, the roadmap is different for a person, but I did something that not my I haven't hear a lot of people do. And when I moved to Canada, I started learning iOS development. I was learning Swift for about 3 months. I had a job at the time, so I spent 9 to 5, 8 hours a day just learning Swift, developing my own apps. I found a course on Udemy that I followed, but really I didn't really learn much because following tutorials and just
That's
looking through
good.
it, I found like this is not a way I can learn. So I just had to, sit down, think of an app I want to make, and just, try to do something yourself. When you get stuck, go Google something, Stack Overflow. There are so
Right.
many resources online. So just like my husband used to tell me, I want to hear you typing on your keyboard. That's how you learn.
Wow.
Not everyone learns that way, but still like you have to do things on your own.
That's a very practical approach, I believe, right?
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
at least
very.
makes sense to me. I get you how that really happened.
Yeah, I mean, you don't learn programming by just reading books, right? It's it's
True.
it's not it's not like civil engineering, right?
True.
So you just have to read it somewhere, learn about it, and then do it yourself. I think that's how
Okay.
you learn programming. But when I started learning programming, 2 months in, I've already started applying to jobs. And
That's awesome.
you can hear a lot of people, I'm not ready to start applying for a job. They have been learning for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and they
Yeah.
still don't feel they're ready. But I started applying immediately. My first interview, I got a simple take-home app to parse a JSON and display it in the table view. I got
Okay.
lost. I had no idea what I was doing.
You didn't do networking before that?
A little bit, but not like when I got it. I was like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing. I mean, I completely wasn't ready.
Okay. So
But
how did it went?
it was actually pretty good. Because I had a lot of time. I spent a lot of time, and they gave me a week to do it. So with
Okay.
a little bit of resources online, I managed to do it. And then I did a little bit of extra in the app. And then I sent it, but they unfortunately decided they don't want to hire anybody, or at least that's what they told me.
Okay.
They don't have a budget to hire a junior developer, so that didn't really pan out.
Mm-hmm. So, how did you apply for the next one? Because many people, first of all, kudos to you that you started applying after just 2 months of learning. Because many people are like stuck at that point itself, where they, as you said, they learn for 6 months and they're still asking when should we start applying, right? Maybe they are just
Yeah,
waiting for some perfectionism to happen, which is, I
yeah,
think, We should not wait for that. At least from that interview, I believe you would have at least learned something that you would have gone back and applied in your practice.
Absolutely, that's one thing that really helped me. As I was interviewing, I was getting better and better at interviewing. So it was kind of, a real life practice of
Okay.
interviewing. I was applying to any job I could see. Like I was
Any job.
looking through Indeed. I just needed that first iOS development job, and especially I
Right.
had no Canadian experience, and I had no internships, and a lot of people were, list all your internships that you had. And we didn't have any internships back in Croatia at my university, so I was also lacking there. And so, I just needed my first job to get started. And but I think like when are you ready to start applying? Start applying now because I think like technical skills can be taught, can be learned.
Yeah.
So what most companies, especially these days, are looking are some like other skills that you have. We call them soft skills. Like how well can you communicate? How well are you gonna get along with the rest of the team?
Right.
But like technical skills, anyone can learn technical skills. So I say start applying now.
I mean,
Don't
that's
lose
quite simple to
time.
say, and like difficult for some to
True.
even understand what you just said. That technical skill can be acquired, but this part is also important. All right, I'll not counter question on this because I don't think that we can expand on this part at least. So how what did really went in your perfect interview? Like perfect in the sense which really worked for you.
Uh, I had a nice interview. My first job that I got a job at Deloitte. So it
Okay.
was it was a very very nice interview. They were looking for a person who is excited to be iOS development, and so we ended up talking about the word iOS development. I don't know what do you think about using like. Um, native frameworks versus third-party frameworks. So why would you
Okay.
use one versus the other? And just like talking about the UI kit, Swift UI, and then I had a portfolio website then, and I put all of my code that I did. I created a small applications, weather application, 2D application, and just put them on my GitHub.
Wow.
And then they saw my code on my GitHub, and so they liked what they saw. They were really like reading through my code and then looking what I did. I was like, okay, she 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 can do it. At least the
I mean,
technical
that's a
part.
proof, right? Like if you have your project on GitHub, which anybody can see if you have made it
Yeah.
public, my God, Grace, then obviously it creates an impression on the interviewer. Even for me, if I share my first job experience, I had this application which I published like after taking that developer subscription and everything. I published that app intentionally because I wanted to go for interviews and wanted to show my application because that used to help me for the 50% of the interview, and the other 50% was some basic things and the discussion that like what you had talking about a lot of topics, right? Like third party frameworks, questioning versus this and that. So I mean, if we have to concise this and tell somebody today who is going to apply for a job in iOS development, what all minimum like parameters should they tick mark first?
I mean, obviously knowing at least like basics about Swift, and most of the like projects you get are parsing a JSON and displaying it in a list or a table view. And I would also have a portfolio website, which most people these days even have. Any apps that you made that you may have published on the App Store. But if you don't have apps, I didn't have any apps on the App Store, so I just listed apps that I did myself. Um, I created this weather app. When you click on my website, you could see the technologies that I use, what the app does. It wasn't even completed, but I
Okay.
still work in progress. But this is what I made, and then a link on GitHub, and then you could go there and see what I did. Which a lot of people actually told me during interviews. Oh, I've seen your portfolio and your GitHub profile and the apps that you made.
Wow.
And we even talked about one of the apps that I made, like about the code, and that was very nice. So definitely had that.
That's great. I think that would really help anyone to at least get one step ahead in their process of applying and getting themselves on the safe side as far as
Yeah,
their selection or rejection is concerned.
it really
So,
helps.
yes, I also believe so. And how did Ray Vandelik happen to you? Because you have been working with Ray Vandelik for how many years in specific?
Yeah, I was going through their process of becoming an article author even before I got my first job.
Okay.
uh, yeah, so because I graduated their boot camp, it was from May to August 2020. And then I graduated as one of the top 5 students, and so they invited me to become part of their team. They had a few positions at a time, and so I
Okay.
decided the most interesting one was like writing articles. And I never wrote a
Yeah.
technical article before, and I didn't have any professional experience before that. So I was like, okay, I'm not sure can I do this, but let's try. There's nothing to lose.
Okay.
Worst case scenario, they're going to tell me, look, we're still think you need some experience, and then I can apply again in a year or so.
Right.
And so I decided, let's give it a
You
try.
are going
And
with that approach. At least let's just try.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, let's try. I'm a person, when somebody asks me something, why not? Let's try. What's there to lose, right?
Okay.
uh, and yeah, so I started writing articles for them. I think a year and a half ago already
All right.
now. So yeah, time flies fast.
Yeah. And like for those who don't know, I also discovered Daniela through one of her articles. I was reading one topic and I found, okay, the author's name is somewhat familiar. Then I checked her profile and I was, okay, I'm already following her. So that was amazing. I mean, first of all, as a author, you have been contributing a lot to the community. So I would like to thank you for that, being an idol for myself. Like since you have been making a lot of
Thank you.
contribution, now you have your personal blog as well. So how did that started? Because I think you have started a personal blog quite recently, right?
Yeah, a month and a half ago, I was building my website starting of this year. Took a while, but at one point I just had to, say, okay, it's done. I just have to publish something. It's a constant struggle of when are we ready to publish this thing. And so, okay, I think Donnie tweeted one day like, what are you doing this Monday? And so I decided like to say, okay, I'm releasing my website at the end of the week. And so, keeping myself accountable, and everybody
Right.
saw it. And like, we're looking forward to the, okay, everybody else is now keeping me accountable. And so
Wow.
I just published my first blog post, and I decided to publish every 2 weeks. Every
Okay.
week is a little bit too much for me right now. So I think every 2 weeks looks perfectly fine.
Would you like to share, Daniela, about your process in writing an article? Because I believe every creator, be it a video creator or a article writer, they have their own process of doing things, right? They have their own touch of how they go about it. So would you like mind sharing how do you go about it?
Yeah, so when I write my personal articles, I was like I had an issue with like thinking before I started writing, what am I going to write about, right?
Okay.
And then like
That's a
every
good
other
question.
person out there, there are 10 other articles already on this topic. Why should I
Yeah.
be the 11th one?
Yeah.
And then uh, I just decided when I'm doing something at work and I find something that I'm struggling with, or I haven't been able to find something already on that topic on the internet, or I
Okay.
found something but I think maybe a different way of saying things could also be nice. And so whenever I'm doing something, I just write a small, I have notes, just write a small note. Okay, I think there should be an article on this that explains this in this way or like this, and just I have a list of those notes and just go
Okay.
through them and just write an article. And not all articles need to be how to do something and have 2,000, 3,000 words. They can
Yeah.
be a small, short 5-minute article explaining just that one thing really well. And that's kind of what I'm following. And writing for myself because. I was obviously, trying to figure that thing out. So it's like a documentation for myself. If in, I don't know, a few years later I have to do that thing all over again, I'll go back to my
Yes,
article
documenting.
and read it. It's like a documentation, yeah.
Is
And
it
also,
more of like a
helping
document?
other people
Sorry.
and like helping others if they struggle
Yeah,
with the topic
definitely
as
you
well.
are, and you have been like since I would say since the starting of your journey into iOS development, you have been doing that. So I was asking something, I just forgot what I was asking. So
Sorry.
no worries. But let's move on to the things that you have been doing apart from this. Tell me anything that you do apart from iOS development also, because I know you only through iOS like community. So I would like to know more about you in that way.
Yeah. What do I do when I'm not coding, right?
Yeah, apart
It's
from,
funny, a lot of people like ask me, "What do you do when you don't work?" And I was like, "Well, I do write articles, speak at conferences."
that's
But
also that's also some sort of work, I would say.
yeah, that's true. When I don't work, well, usually on weekends, every Saturday, my husband and a friend of ours, we explore Toronto. And then just yesterday, we were like we choose a hiking trail because Toronto is, unlike most of like North America and the big cities, has a lot of parks, a lot of natural
Okay.
hiking trails. Like you would go to downtown and take a right turn and find yourself in the middle of the forest, which I absolutely love about it. And so we just do some hiking and then explore different restaurants. They go somewhere for lunch. So it's really
Okay.
nice also to not sit in front of a computer. Just go outside. No social media. No phones.
Do you
Yes,
do it intentionally, or is it like you enjoy that? That's why you do it.
I enjoy it. That's why I do it. It's my way of relaxing.
Okay.
I absolutely love being in nature, greenery. Just I love it.
Nature,
And also some vitamin D, because we're sitting
vitamin
in
D.
our homes entire day. So yeah,
True
apart
that.
from that, I watch some Netflix shows, um, and then yeah, I think that's pretty much what I do. And then I play some video games also.
Okay, video games.
Yeah,
That's
when
interesting
I have
because
time.
I cannot like question anything on that certain topic, but because I'm like not big into games. So, all right. But I also heard you telling me that you have started with, going as a speaker in conferences, and it happened from this year itself, right?
It happened
So
last year.
last year,
Yeah,
okay. You were in
October. Yeah.
Swift, okay, yeah, because Swift Leads
Yes.
hasn't really happened this year. So, all right. So you started off with that last year. So how did that happen in the first place, and how was it? Because I have also applied to the conference this time, uh, to be honest, and I didn't really know how to, send my proposal. Like there's a CFP call, so I was very naive in that way. So what kind of tips would you like to give anyone who wants to apply as a speaker, because you have been one, and I believe that you must have applied also. So how was it like, the overall experience plus this particular question that I just had?
Yeah, I think I got a little bit lucky when I first started my first conference as a speaker because I was actually invited to speak, and I've
Okay.
never spoke at a conference before. So Adam Rush invited me to speak at Swift Leads in October last year, and it was in person conference, which was also like
That's amazing.
more more crazy. And when Adam actually invited me, I asked him if
Wow.
he made a mistake or if he wanted to ask someone else because I was like, well, why me? Like,
Why were
why do
you
you
doubting,
think?
doubting that
Yeah,
that
like I
decision?
never spoke at a conference before. Like when me, I was like, you have a nice story, and I actually spoke about my story from civil
Okay.
engineering to iOS development. It wasn't a technical talk, which was also really nice because it's much easier to speak about yourself than
True.
like make a first conference of being a technical talk.
True.
But and so that went well. It was very nice. I met so many people there. And then I spoke at the NS Spain, ISConf Singapore, and now I'm in September. I'm going to be speaking at the ISDev UK in
Wow.
Wales.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so speaking at this is going to be my fourth conference, and I spoke with my first conference, and then I loved speaking there because I got to meet so many people, speakers
Right.
as well, for people in the industry also doing content creation
Main
or
thing is
having labs.
like-minded people, I believe, from all over the
Yes,
place. So
yes. And
that's
when you're in a room with like-minded people, like I get so excited, like okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. Like
right.
it's so exciting, it's so nice, and it was very nice because it was in person. It's I
Okay.
much prefer like in-person conferences and meetups or any type of events
Yeah,
than
virtual
like remote.
like still lack in some way. So I'm also a in-person kind of person, but it hasn't happened to me yet. I'm still waiting. So let's see.
Yeah, but for anyone that wants to start speaking at conferences, to
Yeah.
answer the question, um, iOS development community is like very, very supportive. So
Yes,
my
it is.
first thought was like everybody's going to laugh at me, say I don't have enough experience. What is she talking about? But that's not really the case. It's the imposter syndrome, But I think we just have to learn to live with it. When you don't have an imposter syndrome, that you should be worried.
True.
So you just if you want to speak at a conference, you can always reach to another person. Everyone is more than welcome to help you. Like reach out to me if you want to speak at a conference. You don't know what topic you can speak about, or you need help with your CFP.
Okay.
Reach out to anyone who you know already spoke at a conference. Well, one thing that I personally do is I would go to a conference website and then see how other speakers wrote their CFPs, like what is the talk
All
title, what
right.
is the talk description, see how they structured it, and I kind of do it the same way. So
All
yeah,
right.
there's always that part where you might get declined, which don't think that's a bad thing. I've seen in conferences saying like they have so many good applications, and it's so hard to find like the right and accept the right proposals. So we can always apply next year.
Yes. But that's a good idea, I think. Since I have also tried looking at it in this way, that you can look at all the CFPs, and then you can, like, I was thinking of kind of taking an inspiration from those submissions, but I don't know what happened. I just went with my kind of recipe in that. But yeah, that's a great one. Also, I'll reach out to you whenever I submit my next CFP in that case.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. That's a great thing. All right. And this month was quite crazy because we had Dub Dub, and I found you going to Cupertino, and you didn't really attend the event in person like the Dub Dub one, the Apples one, but you had other like local meetups, which I was happy are organized. I think one of them, and some other like groups also organized some of the meetups. So how was that whole experience? I would say, because this is not something that I'm asking for anyone else. This is something that I'm asking personally because I also want to know what actually happened, because we saw a lot of hype. I was like feeling FOMO for the very first time this year, that everyone is there in Cupertino this time, it looks like, and what I am missing out. So please do let me know what I
Yeah,
missed.
I think we were all like everybody was waiting for a WWDC to happen in person, in a very long time. And this was my first WWDC I kind of fully participated in. And then I did apply, but I unfortunately wasn't lucky enough to get a ticket. But I still decided, to go there because there were so many, as you mentioned, great events around there.
Yeah.
So I was a happy hour organizer. They organized a keynote watching in a theater in
Okay.
Cupertino. There
Okay.
were, I think, about 15 of us without a ticket who went there, to attend all of the events. And so we watched the keynote in a theater, eating popcorn. We had like recliner seats, and it was
Well,
like AC, but like people who were at the Apple Park, they were all, outside on the sun roasting. So they were like, everybody was telling us, we're so jealous. Like, if you watched the
right.
keynote, you were so comfortable. And so
Yeah.
that was like very nice. And then there was the first happy hour that happened in person, and there
Right.
were hundred of people. It was
Wow.
amazing seeing and meeting all these people I've known for years on Twitter, and just being there and talking with them. I talked with some people there, like meeting them for the first time in person, and I spoke with them, for hours. Like we've known each
Wow.
other for 20 years, and it was so nice, so good.
That's amazing. And when you were watching the event in the theater, how was the environment over there? Like, were you guys discussing things? Were you like looking at each other whenever there was a big announcement and, were talking about that? Because I don't think that that must be happening. Maybe some people might be taking notes about things. And so, what was actually happening inside the theater? Like, how was the environment?
Yeah, yeah, we watched the keynote in the theater, and then when if there was an announcer of some kind, you could hear the theater. Oh,
Okay.
look at this! So we were looking. Oh, look at this! Like, this is so cool. So we
All
were
right.
all like, there was like a hype, or like finally this, yeah. And then we
Right.
decided to go. The 15 of us that were there, we took lunch together after that. We ended up spending entire day together later. And then there was, State of the Union, which wasn't really officially organized, but we
Mhm.
went to a closed bar. And then I think we took George Holt's like iPad, put it on a table, and then we were
Okay.
just watching it together,
Wow.
which was also really nice.
Wow, sounds like a team building exercise, more of like
Yeah,
like what
yeah,
happened that you told me about the State of the Union.
it
That's
was
amazing.
amazing.
What was the best highlight for this develop like for you?
You mean in terms of Apple announcements, or?
Yes, in terms of I would say Swift UI, I believe that you are working in Swift UI, not in UI
Yeah,
kit primarily.
yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing to know
Um,
because like still not many people work in Swift UI like primarily.
that's very true, very true. UI kit is still out there, yeah.
It's still
But
overpowering things.
yeah, I think I'm most excited about the new navigation Swift UI,
That
which
was
I
needed.
just yeah, it was very needed. And because we like just before that DC, we were talking at work,
Yeah,
how it's the best way to implement Swift UI navigation in our app, and so we had like a lot of discussions. And then we said, let's see what Apple comes with, and
right.
we can use it because we're supporting iOS 15,
15.
so we can use it next year, I guess.
16 you said, right? Not 15. Yeah.
We support in our apps because we're just creating building new apps at
Right.
my work. We
Right.
support iOS 15,
True.
so which is pretty good because some companies like support iOS 13 or 14, and you have to wait 2-3 years until you can use new stuff.
True. True.
But I absolutely love that navigation stack, and I was just using it in a small app that I made, and it's I like it. I really like it.
And about other things, like we had this customizable lock screen as well this time. Like for me, it was quite amazing to see that the way everything was happening in that particular feature that has been introduced. It was quite amazing.
Yeah, so many people I've seen like with their lock screens already have iOS 16 beta installed. I don't install iOS 16 beta on my
People are
personal
quite
device.
courageous.
Yeah, but I've seen all these like they installed and they are customizing their lock screen, and I love how it looks like, and I can't wait like until it comes live. So like just to play around with it, but it looks
Have
very
you
nice.
tried? Have you tried macOS Ventura yet, or like?
No, no, I haven't yet. No, I did try the Xcode beta, and I think I love to use it. It's pretty nice. The new auto completion, and the errors are now not red. They are now like
Yeah,
gray, and I like new Xcode.
that's amazing. So, on that note, Daniela, I think we can wrap up this conversation here. But before we leave, I would like to ask you two questions precisely. One is what, like, this is one of those questions that I have been asking to all of my guests, and here it is. So, what would you tell your 18-year self today if you had to tell anything to that version of you?
What would I tell 18-year-old self? Where was I when I was 18?
Good question.
What would I tell myself? Try programming.
Try programming. Okay.
That's one thing I wish when I was younger to to maybe like see programming somewhere before. Then I'm always thinking like maybe I would have become a programmer much sooner. But
Okay.
yeah, that's one
Fair
thing.
enough. Fair enough. And what closing thoughts do you have for all the listeners to this podcast?
What closing thoughts? I just recently moved all my notes to. I was using Apple Notes and just moved everything to Notion. I found it much better to organize, and so I created this like a main page for all the content I create for everything that I do. And
Okay.
so I put a small quote that I found online that I absolutely love, and I'm going to share with everybody. And so every time I open that page, I see that quote. So it's a quote by Denzel Washington, and it goes like this. So at the end, it's not about what you have or even what you accomplished. It's about who you messed it up, who you met better. It's about what you've given back. And so
Wow.
it's what I like to think about. What everything I do. And when people ask me, how do you have so much time to do all these things? And I don't do it, for my own. I do it to give back to the community, and because
Wow.
everybody's nice, everybody uh, gives back so much, and so I do it myself. Every conference talk that I give, I give it so everybody else can learn from what I've learned myself. And just by giving back, you get so much back automatically. You meet all these people. People come to you saying, "I love your article." It's what keeps going forward, and why I love spending my personal time outside of work doing all these things.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. That's a very beautiful thought, I would say. Not many people think in that way. Though I know like the whole community of iOS, and anyone who is a creator, most of them have the same kind of approach. Like they want to give back to the community. Maybe they felt something, then they were struggling with things. So they now think that, okay, let's give back to those who are struggling these days, or maybe who want this piece of content, right? And listening this from your side, I mean, that's amazing. Like that's I have immense respect for you, for what all you have been doing.
Thank
Just
you.
expect that, yeah, keep doing the same. I'll be one of those cheer, person who would always keep sharing your content. Though I don't think that I have shared your content pretty much yet, but so
That's okay.
I should start doing that, I think. But yeah. So guys, that's all for this episode. I will add all the social media handles of Daniela, specifically Twitter, I would say, in the description down below. Please go ahead, follow her on Twitter, and if you also feel like, you can follow me as well on Twitter. I'll also provide my link as well. So that's all for this episode. See you in the next one. Thank you so much, Daniela, and I hope just that you enjoyed it.
I have, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was very
Thank you so
nice.
much.